Money is a hot talking point in football, and while the Premier League is home to the top earning players in England, you'd honestly be surprised by how much the top earning Championship players are currently making. In today's video, we're going to go over the highest paid player from every Championship season, starting all the way back in 2013. We kick things off with not just one, but two big earners at QPR, as both Joey Barton and Shaun Wright-Phillips were reportedly pocketing a massive £65,000 per week salary playing in the Championship for QPR. Now, in terms of Joey Barton, there's quite a bit that can be said about him. Much known for his controversial antics off the football pitch, Barton actually had a really good year for QPR this season, as he helped guide them to promotion. With him in the engine room in midfield, QPR eventually made it up through the playoffs, so whether or not he was worth the 65 grand per week, I guess you can make your own assumptions. As for Shaun Wright-Phillips though, it wasn't quite the same story that season. Fresh off their relegation from the Premier League, he was still on a massive contract with the club and he didn't exactly feature that much this season, certainly nowhere near enough to justify the wage that he was on. In total, he only made 11 appearances for the club in the Championship that season. All that while earning 65 grand a week to sit on the bench. The following season saw Darren Bent being named the highest paid player in the league, as he had loan spells with both Brighton and Derby County that year. At this time, he was still technically on the books at Aston Villa, who were a Premier League club, but as he spent the season on loan in the Championship, we're going to count him towards this list. He did have a really good spell for Derby in the second half of that season, scoring 12 goals in 17 appearances, all while pocketing a massive 65 grand a week in the Championship. Fresh after Fulham's relegation from the Premier League, Scott Parker then became the highest earning Championship player in the 2015/16 campaign. As he was still on a Premier League contract at the time, he was taking home a whopping 70 grand a week playing in the second tier. Parker was always a true professional, but at this point he was in the later stages of his career and Fulham really didn't have a great time after being relegated. They finished 20th that season. It would have been one of Parker's more forgettable years. And now these days, Parker's probably one of the highest earning managers in the league with Burnley. In 2016/17, the highest earning Championship player was a two-way tie between Alexander Mitrovic and Jordan Rhodes. Now, in terms of Mitrovic, he's a player who's gone on to absolutely tear things up at Championship level, but that wasn't quite the case back in 2016. Yes, he did win the league title with Newcastle that year, but he was by no means their most instrumental player, as he scored just 4 goals in 25 Championship appearances for the club that season. But he was still their highest paid player at the time, earning 60 grand a week, and that was also reportedly the case for Jordan Rhodes at Sheffield Wednesday as well. Wednesday really pushed the boat out to secure Rhodes. They signed him up to a big money contract, but he was very much on the downwards trend at this point of his career. During that season for Wednesday, he only scored 3 league goals. And then we come to the infamous Jack Rodwell, and Sunderland fans probably still wince to this day when they hear his name. While Sunderland were in absolute financial freefall, Rodwell was still taking home a weekly salary of £70,000. The club was an absolute mess at this point. Rodwell barely featured for the club that season, and when he did, he was far from inspiring. Sunderland ended the season being relegated to League One, and Rodwell's refusal to leave the club despite his wages made him a symbol of the team's woes. Pound for pound, that could have been the worst signing of all time. Now, in 2018, Stoke City had just been relegated from the Premier League and they were still holding on to some Premier League level wages. Mama Biram Duke was one of those players who was still taking home the big bucks for Stoke City at the time, reportedly earning 65 grand a week. And that season, he wasn't exactly banging in the goals for them either, as he scored just 1 goal in 21 appearances. In 2019/20, the highest earning Championship player was Andre Ayew, who actually had a really good campaign for Swansea that season. He was definitely their most influential player in the final third that season, scoring 16 goals and providing 7 assists. But was he worth the money that he was being paid? He was on 80 grand a week that season and was still on a Premier League contract with the Swans. His class definitely stood out that year and Swansea went desperately close to promotion, but just missed out through the playoffs. In 2020/21, Yannick Bolasie earned the title as the highest paid championship player as he joined Middlesbrough on loan in January that season. He was still on a Premier League level wage at Everton, earning £75,000 per week at the time, and how much Middlesbrough would have actually covered of that wage we don't know. But his spell at the Riverside was short but sweet. Whether or not he was worth 75 grand a week at the time though, I'm not so sure. It seems mental, but in 2020/21, Danny Drinkwater was earning £100,000 per week playing for Reading in the Championship. Now, Reading themselves probably only covered a fraction of that wage as Drinkwater was on loan from Chelsea at the time, who had given him such a lucrative contract. But by this point of his career, he was very much on a downward spiral. I don't think he came anywhere close to justifying that sort of wage while out on loan with Reading in the Championship. He might have shown a few flashes of quality, but nowhere near the sort of 100 grand a week level. In 2022/23, Watford's Ismaila Sarr held the title as the Championship's highest paid player as he was taking home a wage of £63,000 per week at the time. He did have a good season for Watford that year, to be fair, scoring 10 goals and providing 7 assists. But the club ultimately finished mid-table that year and didn't get much of a return from paying Sarr the big bucks. Last season's top earner in the Championship was Jamie Vardy, and he's by far the highest paid player on this entire list. With a weekly wage of £140,000 per week at Leicester, Vardy was the highest paid player in Championship history last season. Although it does seem like bonkers money for the Championship, Vardy is a Premier League legend after all. At 36, he might not be as nippy as he used to be, but his goals still fired Leicester back to the Premier League at the first time of asking. When you consider they were paying Vardy that sort of figure, I mean, it's no wonder they won the league last year. And I bet not a lot of people would have predicted this, but the highest paid player in the Championship this season is actually Mason Holgate. The 27-year-old is still on a Premier League level contract at Everton, but he is an active player in the Championship right now as he's set to spend the campaign on loan with West Brom. While he's yet to make his debut for the Baggies this season, he's reportedly taken home a weekly wage of £70,000 per week, which I can't imagine West Brom will be covering that much of. His last couple of loan spells with the likes of Southampton and Sheffield United haven't exactly gone to plan, but currently earning 70 grand a week, you can understand why Holgate is in no rush to leave Everton on a permanent basis right now. But guys, there you have it. There was the highest paid Championship player from every season since 2013. Some of those players probably did justify the lucrative wages they were being paid, but for the most part, probably not. If you'd like to see more of this sort of thing on the channel, then make sure to leave a like, drop your thoughts in the comments down below as well. But other than that, thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one.